Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Good Orderly Direction, Practical Tools of the Bible. Today we are discussing Numbers 31 and the rest of the book of Numbers. We're focusing on mindfulness of what you have. I'm your host, Dr. Dawn-Elise Snipes. The Reubenites and Gadites, who had very large herds and flocks, saw that the lands of Jazer and Gilead were suitable for livestock. So they came to Moses and said, "The lands the Lord subdued before the people of Israel are suitable for livestock, and your servants have livestock. If we have found favor in your eyes, let this land be given to your servants as our possession. Do not make us cross the Jordan." So the Reubenites and Gadites had found their land of milk and honey and didn't feel the need to search anymore. They're looking around going, "This is good. We're liking this." Too often, we keep saying we will be happy when. As the old saying goes, the grass is always greener. I'll be happy when I'm making this much money. I'll be happy when I get this particular type of job. I'll be happy when I meet the perfect person and get married. Whatever the when is, instead of focusing on how am I happy now, we think, I will be happy eventually. The Reubenites and Gadites were mindful of what they needed versus necessarily wanted, what they needed, and recognized the dangers of continuing and trying to find something better. So think to yourself, what do you need to be happy? There's a lot of things we may want. You may want a castle on a hill somewhere. I don't know. But do you need that in order to be happy? What do you need to be happy? And if you continue to pursue what you want, how does that risk what you have? If you want to have a really important job and be a CEO with lots of power, okay, that is your choice. That is your desire. Do you need that in order to be happy? And if you pursue that, what are the consequences? Most people who are C-level executives don't spend a lot of time at home. They have had to work very long hours. They haven't gotten to see their family. Oftentimes, they haven't worked out or taken care of their bodies either. They're kind of exhausted. Are you willing to give up all of those things in order to have that job? Moses said to them, "Should your fellow Israelites go to war while you sit here? Why do you discourage the Israelites from crossing over into the land the Lord has given them? This is exactly what your fathers did when I sent them from Kadesh Barnea to look over the land. After they viewed it, they discouraged the Israelites from entering the land the Lord had given to them. The Lord's anger burned against Israel, and he made them wander in the wilderness for 40 years until the entire generation of those who had done evil in his sight was gone. If you turn away from following him, he will again leave all his people in the wilderness, and you will be the cause of it." Now, we don't exactly know if this is what God would have done. However, it's certainly a persuasion tool that Moses is using. Moses was concerned that if the Reubenites and Gadites stayed back, that the other Israelites would see this as an act of fear and potentially start another rebellion and say, this is good enough. We're good here, boss. Let's not move any further. And that's not what God wanted. And ultimately, Moses knew that it was going to be important, given the robustness of the Israelite community, to have more land, to have more space and follow God's edicts. Additionally, if the Reubenites and Gadites stayed back, the reduction in the size of the army would weaken the Israelites' position. And I know some of you are going, well, think back to all these other examples of Gideon and Joshua, who accomplished a lot with many fewer people in their army. Well, yeah, that's true. That is true. However, it's important at this point. God has said, if you're going to take on this challenge, it's prudent that y'all have everybody there. So the Gadites and Reubenites went back to Moses and said, "We would like to build pens here for our livestock and cities for our women and children. But we will arm ourselves for the battle and go ahead of the Israelites until we've brought them to their place. Meanwhile, our women and children will be protected. We will not return to our homes until each of the Israelites has received their inheritance. We will not receive any inheritance with them on the other side of the Jordan, because our inheritance has already come to us on the east side of the Jordan. And Moses agreed. So there was an element of reason in that. They created a win-win situation. The Reubenites and Gadites recognized, we don't want to go any further. And we have what we need here. We want to keep our women and children safe. And Moses said, okay, I get that. However, I still need you because you were part of the plan. And they came to a compromise that seemed to work for everybody. Moses agreed to let the Reubenites and Gadites have the land on that side of the Jordan if they helped the rest of the community push forth. It was a reasonable win-win compromise, like people belonging to a team that has a goal or a vision. Think athletes that are trying to work toward being, helping their team be the best in the league, for example, or CEOs that want to help their company get listed on the stock exchange and become the next Amazon. Well, that's great. That's wonderful. But sometimes before they get there, the athlete or the CEO will decide that, I've got what I need. And continuing to push forth is taking too much away from all of the other things that are important in my rich and meaningful life. So I'm not going to leave you in a lurch. I'll finish the season or I'll train my successor, but then I'm done. I'm going to stay on this side of that success. In the remaining chapters, we recount the stages of Israel's journey. So it's always important to refresh and remind ourselves. No matter how much we refresh and remind ourselves, we still see history repeating itself. It's like, are you not paying attention? But apparently we're not. The remaining chapters also warn of intermingling with non-believers. It says, if you do not drive out the inhabitants of the land, those you allow to remain will become barbs in your eyes and thorns in your side. They will give you trouble in the land where you will live. And then I will do to you what I plan to do to them. So God's recognized ever since the Garden of Eden of the dangers of free will. And he recognizes at this point that the Israelites don't seem able to maintain their boundaries in mixed company. And there's likely somebody in any group that can be led astray. The next chapter continues to highlight various laws. Most of them have already been talked about in other chapters. But again, it's reiterating the things that are important, reiterating the laws that seem to be kind of getting overlooked now, bringing them back to the forefront and going, hey, don't forget about this. They create cities of refuge and assert that all women must marry men from their father's clan. Now, that may seem barbaric. It's like, well, why can't somebody marry any of the Israelites? Remember, each clan had a duty, had something they were supposed to do to help the Israelite community function. And if we started to see people swapping clans, then the number of people in each clan would become imbalanced. And if you go back to the chapters where we talked about the censuses, Moses was very careful to not only count how many people there were altogether, but how many people there were in each clan. And it was also important at this point to make sure that they were aware of how many people there were there, because there had to be a certain number of Levites. So this is one of the reasons I believe that this edict may have been put forth. It also may have been put forth to keep people from being tempted to marry somebody outside of their clan. And it theoretically guarantees equal yoking between believers. Theoretically, people in the same clan, they are sharing similar beliefs and are going to be moving toward a rich and meaningful life that's characterized by good, orderly direction. Numbers, by its very name, think, where did numbers come from? Genesis, that means evolution beginning. Exodus, they're leaving. That makes sense. But then we start getting into other things. Joshua, that makes sense because it was all about Joshua. But Numbers, Numbers focuses on the growth of the Israelite community and helps us recognize strength in numbers and how each person, tribe, or clan has a function and has to function in order to ensure the continued health and existence of the entire community.